Hi, it's me, Alicia Butler-Pierre, and I am the owner of Equilibria Incorporated, where we actually specialize in operations management for fast-growing small businesses. One of the things that I really specialize in is helping companies create systems so that they can keep up with their day-to-day operations without anything really important falling through the cracks. And today I want to share with you one of many systems that I use for myself and that I've actually helped many of my other small business clients with as well. And that system is, ta-da, the Tickler. If you've never heard of a Tickler system, a Tickler is actually nothing more than a way to organize documents and other important paperwork or maybe physical, tangible things that you may have to help you organize your day. So, with my Tickler system, I have this decorative box here, and I have actually taken hanging file folders that can fit 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, so letter size paper, and I've actually labeled every single hanging file folder in this Tickler, inside of this box, from 1 to 31. That corresponds to the different days of the month, because at most there are 31 days in a month. And so I don't have to swap this out whether it's January versus April, for example. I also have a tab here called Next Month. And that is for anything that I have coming up in the following month that I can't necessarily work into one of these particular hanging file folders, excuse me. So let me explain to you first how I actually use this. On Sunday afternoons, that's usually when I start planning out what I'm going to be doing for the remainder of that particular week. So what will happen is a lot of times I'll go into my electronic calendar, either on my computer or sometimes I'm just looking through my phone, and I'm looking at all the different meetings, client appointments, networking events, anything where I have to either work on something, attend an event, maybe have a phone call, whatever the case may be. I try to then look at all of the information that I need to have in order to prepare for each of those different events. So for example, today is April 13th, 2019. And so when I go to that 13th hanging file folder, what I have in here is a folder called Podcast. My podcast actually comes out every Sunday, and so on Saturdays a lot of times I'm just trying to make sure that I have everything lined up, buttoned up for the podcast release, which is the next day. So this is just a great visual reminder. Whenever I go into my office every single morning, I take out all of the information associated with that particular day, and it just helps jog my memory, but also helps me make sure that I stay on task and that I'll have all the information that I need for that particular meeting, appointment, event, whatever the case may be. I'll just keep going through a couple more days. So on the 14th, which is going to be a Monday, I actually have something a little bulkier here. And this is some information that I have for a client session that I will have that will take place on the 14th. I also have in here an Atlanta Business Chronicle, which is just a reminder to me that, hey, while you're out and about on the 14th, you have some downtime in between some client sessions, make sure I read the paper. I also have here later in the month, just to give you an example of some of the different ways and types of information that you can store in your Tickler. So here behind the 28th day, this is my marketing binder. And because I always intentionally put that toward the end of the month, just to kind of help me jog my memory for different types of things that we want to do from a marketing perspective. And so I almost always have this binder in here. If there is anything that I pick up on, let's say it's a brochure, a flyer, a file folder, whatever it may be, again, as you're out and about, people will give you things, they will give you different types of collateral. A lot of times, if it's something that I know I can't work into for that particular month that we're in, I'll just simply put it in this next month folder. Now, if you're wondering how did I actually create this, There's so many different ways that you can set up your tickler system, but the most important thing to remember is that you want it to be highly visual. I know myself, and for those of you who are into the whole paperless office thing, this may not appeal to you, and that's perfectly fine, but for myself, I definitely need visual cues to help keep me on task and to make sure that I don't forget anything really important. So having something like this, I keep this on top of a small table that sits on the side of my desk. That way it's very visual. I see it every single time I sit behind my desk. I'm guaranteed to not miss it. And what I've done is over the years, I've developed a habit of every morning going into my office and actually looking here first and grabbing whatever information I may need. Now, getting back to how I actually set mine up. This decorative box here that you see is actually just a storage bin that I bought. I believe I bought it at either a Marshall's or a Ross or TJ Maxx, one of those kinds of stores. It was like 10 bucks, a bargain. I really like the color scheme. I love the color green, and anything with blue in it is always really appealing to me. The next thing that I did, I had to make sure that the dimensions would actually accommodate these hanging file folders if I were to put the folders in there. So just to give you an idea of how deep this is, it's about 16 inches deep, and then the width is about 13¼ inches wide. And you also want to make sure, if you use something like this, that the inside of the box, that those dimensions can also accommodate hanging file folders. Now, the next thing that I had to do was buy a wire framing system, because obviously a hanging file folder is not going to just fit in here very nicely on its own. So I actually went to an office supply store. I don't remember which one, but again, this is a product that's relatively inexpensive, and by relatively inexpensive, what I mean is I think I paid maybe less than $12 for this, but this is a product by SMEAD. This is for a letter size hanging file folder, the wire frame. So you can literally take any piece of furniture that you may have that doesn't already come equipped with a filing frame for your hanging file folder system. You can actually convert it to that using a system like this. And you just literally cut it down to size, and then from there we use some black electrical tape. I don't know if you can see that, because the edges can be a little jagged, so we just use some black electrical tape to make sure that we covered that up and I wouldn't injure myself trying to keep myself organized. And I think that's about it. So the other thing, actually, I take that back. You then have to have your hanging file folder, so you'll make sure that you get a box. I believe they usually come in boxes of 25, so you may need to buy 2 boxes of hanging file folders. It will actually already come with these clear plastic divider tabs, and then literally just label every single one of those tabs 1 to 31, and then add an extra that's called next month. And then you just take that tab, you place it back into the preferred location on the divider, on the hanging file folder itself, and there you have your Tickler system. Now, if this appealed to you, having a very visual system, you might also want to consider getting a copy of my book, which is called Behind the Facade: How to Structure Company Operations for Sustainable Success, because in this book, I also describe lots of other types of visual systems, and I describe that through the use of stories and how different entrepreneurs who are profiled in these stories actually use all types of visual cues and systems very similar to the Tickler to actually help keep them on task so that things don't fall through the cracks as they continue growing their companies. Now, if you found this to be very helpful, please let me know in the comments below. Also, if there's something that I did not address about this system that you have a question about, also drop down in the comments, ask that question. I'll definitely do my best to respond as quickly as possible. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.